In 1917, two young girls in Yorkshire, England took photographs that fooled the world. In 1977, hundreds of people in New Mexico reported hearing a sound that no one else could hear and no equipment could detect. And for centuries, sailors reported seeing ships flying above the horizon, cities floating in the sky in waters where nothing should have been visible at all. 3 stories, 3 mysteries, 1 lesson. Stick around. I'm Michael J. Baker, and this is The Breakdown, where we look at the world around us and ask the one question that changes everything. Is this what it appears to be? Well, tonight we have 3 cases. 3 times reality turned out to be something completely different from what it appeared. And 1 question that connects all of them. Now, before we get into it, I think I should mention something. Due to recent budgetary pressures, everything is so much more expensive now. You know how it is. I can no longer afford to film in my usual studio, so tonight we're coming to you from an alternative location. And thank goodness for the magic of green screens, because you would never guess it, but I'm actually coming to you from the bathroom at my local Applebee's. Pretty good, right? I mean, you can't tell at all. It's fine, really. The acoustics are pretty good in here anyway, and, well, where were we? Right. Things are not what they appear to be. Right. For centuries, sailors reported seeing ghost ships. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech. They reported seeing actual vessels, fully formed ships floating above the surface of the water, hovering in the sky. Sometimes inverted, sometimes multiplied, sometimes appearing to be on fire from the way the light played off of them. They also reported seeing coastlines that didn't exist, cities above the horizon, phantom landmasses materializing from nothing and dissolving just as quickly. This is Fata Morgana. What you're looking at is real, not CGI, not doctored, not AI. This is documented atmospheric optical phenomenon photographed and filmed thousands of times across every major body of water on Earth. Now, here's the physics. Normally, air gets colder as you go up higher. But under specific conditions, cold water with warm air sitting above it, the opposite happens. A layer of warm air traps cold air underneath it, close to the surface. This is called a temperature inversion. Light bends when it passes through layers of air at different temperatures. This is refraction, and when light from a ship or a coastline passes through a temperature inversion, it bends upward. The eye receives the light from an object that is actually below the horizon or hundreds of miles away. And your brain, doing exactly what brains do, places that object where the light appears to come from. Above the water, in the sky. The ship is real, the coastline's real, the city's real, somewhere. Just not where it appears to be, and not in the form it appears to take. The Flying Dutchman, not the one on SpongeBob, but the legendary ghost ship, condemned to sail forever, sighted by sailors for centuries, including the future King George V of England, was almost certainly Fata Morgana. Real light from a vessel bent through temperature inversions into something that appeared completely impossible. The sailors weren't hallucinating, they weren't lying, they saw something real. They just didn't have the physics to understand what it was. What? Oh, yeah. There you go. That's the first lesson. Sometimes something appears supernatural because the natural explanation hasn't been discovered yet. In 1917, 2 cousins, Elsie Wright, age 16, and Frances Griffiths, age 9, took photographs in a garden behind their house in Cottingley, England, that appeared to show them playing with actual fairies. Look at these photographs. I mean, really look at them. These images were examined by photographic experts. Kodak's technical department studied them and could find no evidence of darkroom trickery. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes and one of the most celebrated analytical minds of his generation, declared them genuine. He wrote an entire book about them. He staked his considerable reputation on their authenticity. The Society for Psychical Research examined them. Theosophists embraced them as proof of the spirit world. These photographs were reproduced in newspapers and magazines around the world. They caused a genuine cultural sensation. For 60 years, nobody could definitively prove they were fake. They were cardboard cutouts, traced from a children's book called Princess Mary's Gift Book. Cut out with scissors, held up with hat pins stuck in the ground. Photographed by two young girls who thought it would be funny. Elsie and Frances finally admitted the truth in 1983 when Elsie was in her 80s. Frances maintained until her death that the fifth and final photograph was genuine. The other four, cardboard. Here's what I want you to sit with. Arthur Conan Doyle, the man who created the most famous fictional detective in history, a character defined by logical deduction and rejection of assumption, was completely fooled. Not briefly, for years, publicly, in print. Why? Because he wanted to believe. Because the photograph appeared to confirm something he already hoped was true. Because the desire for the conclusion to be real compromised the rigor of the investigation. This is not a story about two clever girls fooling a gullible public. This is a story about what happens when the standard of evidence gets bypassed by enthusiasm. Sound familiar? The second lesson, something that appears to be extraordinary evidence may be exactly what it appears to be, and that appearance can fool even the sharpest minds when they want badly enough to be fooled. Since the late 1970s, residents of Taos, New Mexico, have reported hearing a persistent, low-frequency hum. Not occasionally, constantly, day and night, a droning mechanical sound with no identifiable source, described as similar to a diesel engine idling somewhere just out of sight. Most people in Taos cannot hear it at all. But for those who can, it is maddening. Sleep deprivation, headaches, anxiety. Some residents reported it was ruining their lives. A congressional investigation was launched. Scientists from multiple institutions descended on Taos to find the source, and they found nothing. No industrial equipment, no geological activity, no identifiable source of low-frequency sound that could account for what the hearers were experiencing. The mainstream conclusion? Mass hysteria, psychological phenomena, the power of suggestion. These people were hearing something that wasn't there. Except they weren't. Research has since identified that a small percentage of the human population, perhaps 2%, can perceive a very low frequency radio waves, VLF. These are extremely low frequency electromagnetic transmissions used by the military forces worldwide to communicate with submarines. They penetrate seawater. They travel enormous distances. They are constant and global. Most human nervous systems don't register them at all, but in a small subset of people, for reasons that are still not fully understood, VLF transmissions appear to be perceived as sound. The Taos Hum hearers were not imagining it. They were not hysterical. They were not suffering from mass delusion. They were perceiving something real that the majority of the people around them simply could not detect. Something that appeared to be madness was actually extraordinary sensory sensitivity. Think about that for a moment. In the context of paranormal research, right? I mean, how many reported experiences have been dismissed as hysteria, as imagination, as the power of suggestion, because the majority of people present couldn't perceive what the experience was reporting? How many times has "I can't detect it, therefore it isn't there" been treated as a conclusion rather than a limitation? The Taos Hum didn't stop being real because most people couldn't hear it. Reality doesn't require consensus perception. Well, there you have it. 3 cases, 3 lessons. A phantom fleet explained by physics that hadn't been discovered yet. Extraordinary evidence that turned out to be hat pins and cardboard, and the brilliant minds who believed it because they wanted to. And a sound dismissed by mass hysteria that turned out to be a real perception of something most people just simply can't detect. Things are not always what they appear to be, sometimes in the direction of the mundane. Something supernatural has a natural explanation waiting to be found. Sometimes in the direction of the credulous. Something that appears to be evidence is constructed from wish fulfillment and scissors. And sometimes in the direction that matters most to this show. Something that appears to be nothing is actually something real that we simply don't have the tools or understanding to perceive correctly. The question is never just, what does this appear to be? The question is, what have I actually done to find out? Next week, we're probably back in the studio. Stay curious and question everything. You ever hear of a mercy flush?